Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Nikki here, and today I am coming to you from my kitchen bench that I have covered with a large black rubbish bag to protect it. But often when I'm doing messy things like coffee dyeing and everything, I head to my kitchen because I have a lovely big bench to play with. Now, as you can see, I have a tub full of scraps here. I am going to make a big mess. Thanks to Luise Heinzl. She did this a couple of weeks ago, got a ton of scraps and turned them into the most beautiful little morsels of paper. And of course, I have to have a go at doing this. I have tons of scraps. Honestly, this is just a tiny weeny portion. But I thought, let's have a play and see how we go. So what I did, the first thing I did was grab some coffee. I love drinking it and I love crafting with it. This is just a very strong mix of instant coffee. I always keep a tub handy because I use it all the time. I wasn't sure whether to go to town with the coffee or just use a little bit. And I sort of kept splattering and splattering. And honestly, it's one of those things, it doesn't matter what you do. There are no rules. This is all about playing and having fun and making a mess and giving yourself permission to do it. So I then also grabbed my little squirty water bottle and just added some water to try and get some of those blobs to disperse a bit. Then I flipped all the pages over. I started off doing it the right way, using a pair of tongs, and later on I gave up on that. Keeping in mind this process, which I thought would be quite quick, I ended up taking 3 days to do it. So here I'm adding some more coffee after I've turned everything over. I think I got a little bit more liberal with it because I can see a lot of white and I don't want to end up with a lot of white pieces. I definitely want them toned away from white, a bit more spraying. Then I used my heat gun. If you don't dry off well in between sort of each layer, you will find that your papers will stick together. Some of them did stick a little bit where I missed with the heat gun, and it's no big deal. I just gently prized them away, still created interesting things, but spending the time to get things dry, I think, is a really important step with this. It doesn't matter if it takes a few days. Rather do it properly so that you end up with bits that you really want to use. If they're all stuck together, then they're obviously not going to be much good to you. So as you can see with the coffee, it's quite dispersed now. You sort of can't really see all those dark patches because coffee does dry a lot lighter than when it first goes on. But that's okay, no problem. I can always add more later on. So I ummed and ahed about what to do next and decided I wanted to change some colours. I wanted to add some colour. Even though you can see little coloured bits in there because some of my scraps were coloured, some of that white I wanted to add some colour, but I didn't want it to be too bright. So I thought the most practical thing I can do is to get out my watercolours. So I grabbed my old El Cheapo watercolour set that has lots of fab colours, and I also grabbed it's, those plastic things that you use in file folders, because I thought I would try the smooshing technique. So that means having a little bit of water close by and using just a tiny bit of watercolor paint. You just dab it onto the plastic. It doesn't have to be in any particular shape, any form. You just pick the colors that you like, add a tiny little bit of paint. Don't overdo it unless you want your colors really bold. But that was not my aim. So I started off with a very neutral tanny color. I think I was quite concerned about the amount of white I could still see. So I just picked a tanny color, popped a bit on, and then popped it straight down on top of some pieces of paper. A couple of them stuck, but they peeled off obviously with ease because this paint is wet. And then I just did this process over and over again, and every time I did it, I picked a slightly different colour. So I wanted a little bit of blue, I wanted a little bit of green, a little bit of pink, you name it. And if I was worried that the colours were going to be a little bit too bright, I just added a little bit more of that tan colour. And then I noticed some of the papers do tend to get folded over. It's not the worst thing if you have bits that are folded over. They can create a really interesting looking piece. But where I noticed it at the time, I sort of unfolded them to try and keep them flat. But as you can see, I'm not using one colour in multiple places. I just pick each colour and just do one drop down. I think, because in the end, I did this watercolouring process I think I did it about 3 times on each side. Look, it only takes a few seconds to do. It's not hard. But I didn't want to have everything with blue on it or everything with green on it. So I decided I would just sort of do it one spot, one colour. Some of them, of course, ended up multicoloured, and that's fine because you keep moving them around. But I didn't want like everything to have blue on it or everything to have green. So look, it's a really easy technique. You only need the cheapest watercolours. You don't need any fancy ones for this. If you don't have watercolours and you have acrylic paint, there's no reason why you can't do the same thing. Just put the tiniest little bit of acrylic paint down on your plastic page, and really mix the water in and then spread it out. It's just, I find watercolours very quick and very easy to use, and I had such a broad selection of colours. I decided I wanted to definitely get some rust / orange style colours onto my scraps, as next week we're heading into autumn, and I don't have a lot in my stash that are lovely autumnal tones. So yes, I sort of got the rusts and browns happening a bit, because for my crafting during autumn, they're the sort of colours you like to use. And if you're worried your colours are a bit bright, as you can see, use a sort of tanning natural colour. You can mix that in with a bright one then, and it will just tone it all down. And it will help to give things a vintage look, but still have that colour tone being used, which I really liked. I didn't want everything, normally I love bright things, but because we're heading into autumn, I think more muted colours definitely sort of suits this. So as you can see, it's a really easy process. I realised I could double dab there for a while, and add that little bit of leftover colour. So some of them I double dabbed, and now from this stage I made sure I really got things lovely and dry, because with the watercolour you're using quite a bit of water. If you let it sit there, not a good plan. Now, I've skipped a day, and if you have a look at these scraps, I've also got a stamp pad out, and I have used my favourite Ranger ink pad, because it is waterproof. I didn't want all my images to sort of disappear when adding more water. Archival inks the go, and I've noticed I'm now upside down here. That's interesting, but it's all good. It doesn't really matter. But I have lightly stamped with a variety of stamps. I wasn't after perfect clear stamping, and one of my stamps may end up on 5 different pieces, and that's what I wanted. I wanted little glimpses of stamps. So I did that, and then I left it alone for a couple of hours to dry, and I was worried now that I really couldn't see coffee marks. I could see coffee colour, but not marks. So I decided to go in with some more coffee. I wanted some more distinctive coffee blobs, because I love that. I just love that dark brown sort of colour. So again, going through it with coffee, and this time I did not spray water onto it. I wanted them to hold their form. So you'll see in a minute I will flip over and start splashing down some other stuff, but I definitely didn't add water. The goal now was to add those more distinct blobs, and quite a few of them, because I find that very appealing. And then the next two things that I am using are designed to, where possible, blend in with the coffee, and it does create some really interesting effects. So the first thing I've got there is some gold acrylic paint that I have mixed with coffee, not water, to dilute it, because I've done this before when I've coffee dyed paper, and the splatters are just stunning, especially if they come into contact with actual drops of coffee.
I love gold.
The little chemical creation they make is so pretty. So I went to town. I did change to this light feather brush. I find it fabulous if you want to make smaller splatters. If you want bigger ones, use a big round brush, but if you want small, finer splatters, these fan style brushes just do the best job of adding little gold dots, or of course whatever color you would like. You definitely need to have a relatively watery consistency for it to work successfully. So I was quite generous with the gold dots, hoping it would combine in with the coffee. Then the next thing I've got there, I had some really old gesso that has really got quite thick. So I've just mixed it with water to get a better consistency. It's still not perfect, and that gesso has now gone in the bin, and I will have to get another one. But I wanted to add some white little dots for contrast. Again, the white where it mixes with the coffee does sometimes create really interesting effects, but if nothing else, white dots create a really good contrast. So again, I didn't want huge ones. Some of them are a little big, but honestly, it doesn't matter. This is not a perfect science. This is about having fun, using what you've got. If you don't have gesso, use white acrylic paint. Just definitely add some water, or it's impossible to splatter, but don't overdo it. Don't make it too watery, or the white will dry and you won't really be able to see it. You won't get the contrast. So here I made sure I did a really good drying effort, because the gesso can be a little bit cluggy / glue-like, and you don't want pieces together. So here we've done all that. We've flipped it over, and for the final round, I go in again with the coffee and my gold and the white, and I pulled out a few other things. I don't know, but I seem to have trouble with inks and paints that come in spray bottles. When you first start using them, they work absolutely perfectly, and then you don't use them for a while and they've all clogged up, and I do find that very frustrating. So here I am contemplating what other colours to use. You can't see them, but to the left of me there is quite a few bottles of spray paint, so to speak. But I start off with the basics. I do the coffee, the gold and the white, and I wasn't sure how game I was, because I know some of these sprays are really quite bold too. So I'm sort of, I was doing this thinking, oh, what do I really want to add? I love how this looks, but I definitely felt something was lacking. I wanted a bit more va-va-boom. I don't know, but I thought they're good, but no, I definitely, they're looking a little bit bland. So I was thinking, oh, look, this may just not be enough. So I finished doing all of that, and I was going to dry it all off first, and then I went, oh, you know what? Look, what does it really matter? Again, if I add some of my sprays, if I can get them to work, then I could end up with some really good colour blends too. So it was a case of picking one, picking two, trying them to see if they worked. That one, of course, did work. I realised how bold and bright it was, so I didn't overdo that one, even though that is one of my favourite colours. I love it, but I didn't want to overdo it. I thought, oh, well, there's one of them that actually works. Here's another one, and I'm trying, and of course, guess what? Nothing's coming out. So next best thing is undo it and just splatter some on. This is a very hot pink, so I wouldn't have wanted a bucket load of it anyway, but a few really bright hot pink dots might also blend in nicely with the coffee and the white. Who knows? You don't know until you try this. So yes, we had to just settle for a few pink splotches, but as you can see, I don't go over the entire collection. I don't want hot pink on everything. Now the next one, I'm thinking, oh, this is ridiculous. Why don't these things work? But at least this was actually a bronze paint, a very cheap set I bought from Kmart. It came in bronze, gold and silver in a spray bottle. They turned out to be the most useless things I've ever bought. They never sprayed properly, but I did the same thing. I just dabbed it on, put it back into the paint every time so that I actually had something to splatter down, and in the end you'll see I have the most beautiful effect from some of them. So look, this is what I ended up with, a fabulous selection. This is a piece of cardstock that will make a gorgeous belly band, and it's got all sorts of pretty colours. It got everything except the bright colours. There's that gorgeous jade colour that's mixed in with hot pink and bronze, bit of gold. My biggest problem is a lot of them are now gorgeous on both sides. Not all of them, but have a look at the difference. That one there, like, I don't know how I'm going to pick what I actually do with them, because it's going to be so hard to decide which side to use. And then that piece, for example, looks almost identical on both. Some of these, like these pretty bright ones, I think I will use them to make die cuts with some autumn leaves and stuff like that. But as you can see, honestly, you use any supplies you've got, it doesn't matter, and just have some messy fun. The results are just stunning, and they will make the most beautiful layering pieces. And like, you would never bother to make one of these, so you might as well make a whole tray full, box full, tub full, and have some fun. So look, I hope you enjoyed this. Please give it a go. Turn your scraps into something absolutely gorgeous. If you're into journaling in any shape or form, you will definitely be able to put these to good use. And it is so much. Now, see, look how that one's really ugly, though. I'm sorry, had to butt in there. Look, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. I hope I've inspired you to give this a go. There's plenty of other YouTubes that have done it. And honestly, it is so much fun. So, stay happy and healthy. I will see you soon. Bye for now.